Joining us today. This is the second of 3 nonpartisan voter information webinars for UTHealth. These were brought together by a group of deputy voter registrars who we sort of found each other on campus and put together kind of an ad hoc group. I'm Sherry Green. I'm the communications manager with the Civic School of Nursing, and I want to thank our other VDRs who have been helping with this project. Lisa McCord, editor with the Public Affairs, is hosting our call today so that I can help with the presentation. Nikki Candaria, who is a fourth-year medical school student, and Dr. Ariel Lyons Warren of Baylor College of Medicine hosted our previous webinar on September 9th about how to register to vote. We had some technical difficulties, so we weren't able to use the recording of that, but we do have the presentation slides available, and I believe that Lisa is sharing those in the chat. And then our next presentation after this one will be on October 6th, and that's with Dr. Rebecca Wells and Graduate Assistant Sarah Clausen of the School of Public Health. They're going to host representatives of the League of Women Voters to talk about how, options, how you can research candidates and issues and make your informed voting decisions for the election coming up. I also want to thank Victor Ibarra, who's a safety specialist with UTHealth, who has done an awesome job of going around and placing little boxes with voter registration applications in high traffic areas around campus. Thanks a lot for that, Victor. So today we're going to talk about how to vote. And, that might seem like a basic issue, especially for those of us that have been voting for years. But the pandemic has, like everything else, has thrown, some changes and some monkey wrenches into the voting process. And there are a number of things that are going to be different this year. It's kind of fluid because there are court cases pending about various voting related issues. So pretty quickly decided we needed some experts on this call, and Harris County has been at the forefront of some of these issues that are being litigated in trying to make voting as accessible as possible. So we have with us today from the Harris County Clerk's office, Tico Reynolds-Hausman, Pamela Dora Thomas, and Douglas Ray. And I'm going to turn it over to them. They're going to give us a lot of terrific in-depth information. And then I'll follow up at the end with a little bit of information about how things are different in our other surrounding counties. And with that, first of all, I think Tuesday was National Voter Registration Day. I initially thought it was today, and I've seen both dates. But the important thing is that the deadline to register to vote is October 5th. And with that, I will turn it over to Tico.
Great. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us. Greetings from the County Clerk's office. I am Tico Reynolds-Hausman, and I'm the Outreach Coordinator. Next slide, please. Next. So briefly, just to let you guys know, the objective of the Harris County Clerk's Voters Outreach Office is to provide voters with information and materials to help assess the voting process, with the emphasis on groups covered by the language provisions of the 1975 Voting Rights Act. The Harris County Clerk is the chief election officer of the third largest political jurisdiction in the nation. As chief election official of the county clerk is charged with establishing the county-wide infrastructure for elections ordered by the state or county governing authorities. The county clerk administers elections with the support and participation of the Harris County Commissioner's Court, the tax assessor collector, the major political parties, and the citizens in the counties in accordance to the federal voting guidelines. Next. The objectives for this 2020 election cycle are to promote, disseminate, and support key aspects of the electoral process, which are related to voting access, including encouraging citizens to update voter information, promote important dates on the election calendar, such as voter registration deadline, voting by mail, early voting period, and election day. Next slide. Key dates to remember for this election. As Sherry noted, the last day to register to vote is October the 5th. The last day to apply for ballot by mail is October the 23rd. Early voting period begins October 13th and it runs through October 30th. And election day is November 3rd. Next slide. Okay, Sherry, if I can pause for a moment, it looks like County Clerk Chris Hollins was able to pop on the call. Can we go ahead and give him a moment to give his greetings?
Sure, I'll stop sharing my screen so that we can see him full screen.
Great, thank you.
Well, hello everyone and good morning. Can you all hear me? Great. I don't want to interrupt all the great information that Tico was just sharing, but just wanted to greet you all and say hello. Our democracy functions as a result of all of us being engaged, and especially during election season, democracy is fuller when each of us gets to the polls, expresses our voice, and has our votes counted. And so your Harris County Clerk's office is 100% committed to the mission of ensuring that you can cast your vote and can do so safely and conveniently with the peace of mind that your vote's going to be counted. We're doing so much more to increase access to the polls here in 2020, especially in light of COVID-19. We're doing everything that we can to keep those polls safe, from PPE to plexiglass to sanitization to social distancing. We want to make sure that regardless of how you choose to vote, that you can do so safely. Now, we know that voting by mail is the safest and most convenient way to vote. And so if you're eligible to vote by mail, we strongly encourage you to go to harrisvotes.com/vote by mail to apply so that you can vote from the safety and convenience of your home. And not only does that make that safe for you and more convenient for you, but it makes it safer and more convenient for every other Harris County voter, because that's one less person in line in front of them, one less person who they could be exposed to at the time of this deadly virus. To remind you of those who are eligible to vote by mail, if you're 65 years of age or older, if you're traveling outside of the county during the election period, if you happen to be in jail but you're otherwise eligible to vote, or if you have a disability. And here in Texas, according to Texas law and the Texas Supreme Court, you have a disability if you are sick, if you're pregnant, or voting in person creates a likelihood of injury to your health because of a physical condition. You can consider lack of immunity to COVID-19 in your health decision. It cannot be the only factor, so you have to have an accompanying condition. But as you all know, as health professionals, and according to information from the CDC, there are so many physical conditions that so many Texans and Harris County residents have. Heart conditions, breathing conditions, things like diabetes, hypertension, obesity. And you can take those into account. But ultimately, it's not my decision. It's not the governor's decision. It's not the attorney general's decision if you're eligible to vote by mail. It's your decision as the voter. And so I encourage you to go to harrisvotes.com/vote by mail to learn more, to decide for yourself if you're eligible, and if you are eligible to apply. If you vote in person, again, we're doing everything that we can to make it safe and convenient. More places to vote, over 120 early voting centers and over 800 election day voting centers. We only had 40 early voting centers in 2016. So in a 4-year period, we tripled that amount. And that's to make voting more convenient and more accessible to you. We're going to have more days than ever, 18 early voting days, longer hours than ever during the last week of early voting. All of our 120 sites will stay open until 10 p.m. on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evening. And on Thursday evening, there will be 7 locations across Harris County that will stay open for 24 hours. And that's so that all residents of Harris County, all registered voters, whether you're a first responder, whether you're a shift worker, whether you're working in the Texas Medical Center to save lives during this critical time, whether you're stocking shelves at the grocery stores that we need so much whether you're working in the Port of Houston or for any other reason, you can vote on this one day for 24 hours at a time that's convenient for you. We're also offering drive-thru voting for the first time in Texas history. Any registered voter at 10 locations across Harris County can cast their votes in the convenience of their vehicle and from the safety of their vehicle with minimal exposure to other voters in election workers. And so, I think as you can see, we're doing everything that we can to keep you safe, but, very importantly, to make sure that you can cast your vote in a way that's convenient for you and that we count that vote. And so thank you all for your engagement. Thank you all for everything that you're doing. Our democracy requires all of us to be involved. So I appreciate everything that you're doing, and we're working hard to protect your right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Collins. It's great to have you on our presentation today, and I appreciate you taking the time to join us.
It's my pleasure.
Tico, shall we go back to the presentation now? Okay.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Can you see the presentation?
I can see it. So we'll go ahead. We'll pause there, and I will turn it over
take a look to see what I heard.
To Pamela to give you guys an update and a quick overview of voter registration.
Good morning. Good morning. I won't spend a lot of time on a lot of the voter registration information, but definitely we are going to continue to say Monday, October the 5th is the deadline to make sure that everyone is registered to vote. Someone mentioned just earlier about National Voter Registration Day, which was on the 22nd. And of course, the storm has made people do different arrangements. So there's a lot of activities that are going on today and tomorrow in lieu of the actual day. And we're partnering with the League of Women Voters that we're going to have tons and tons of volunteer deputies that are going to be assisting at 22 locations across the city. And of course, we have a list of businesses that we're actually going to have volunteer deputies out and about there as well. And currently we have over 2.4 million people who are already registered, but we want to make sure that we reach the masses to get everyone registered to vote. I am excited to introduce really quickly, you are going to be the very first group because the press release just came out today, this morning, as a matter of fact. So there's a new way that we're putting out there to register to vote. And what you can do is text hashtag register Harris. And that, again, that's hashtag register Harris to 832-957-1957 to register to vote. Again, I can repeat that again. You will text hashtag register Harris to 832-957-1957. So that is one of our things that we are launching today. So what you would still have to do is once you go on there, you're able to fill out all of the information and you're able to print and still mail the application in to us, to our office. And all of that information is there. We're also putting up billboards across the city and the county. That is also a reminder about the cutoff date as well. And we're very, very busy. We have all of our VDVRs, and we're so thankful for that. We have the largest number ever, and they're out there and they're registering voters as well. So I think that's all that I have, and I'm going to turn it back over to Ms. Tico.
Thank you. And just quickly, just a quick note, County Clerk is Chris Hollins. I think you said Collins, no problem, but I did want to make sure that everyone knew that it was Hollins with an H. So, and so
I'm sorry.
No worries, no worries. So quickly, what will be on the ballot for November 3rd? Next slide.
Hey, if you don't mind, really quickly, we have a voter registration question from the chat. If you are in the process of moving to Texas from another state, how should you go about voting? First, you would have to register. Yes. So this is moving to Texas from another state. It should, they should just go to from California.
Yes, so the registration would be the same. Of course, that person would be new to Harris County and they would actually fill out the voter registration information.
Okay, so they should visit the same information on voter registration. Okay, thank you.
Yes. Okay, next. So just briefly, just to give you an idea of what will be on the ballot for November 3rd, of course, we have a presidential election, but we have statewide elections as well as our local elections. There are some extra items on the ballot due to the postponement of some of the runoffs, and so you will find those on this ballot as well. Next. 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 Voting by mail. So I won't go into too many details. Once Mr. Ray gets through, we can go through that. But I want to turn it over because there are a lot of questions and concerns about vote by mail. And so, Mr. Douglas Ray, if you could just give us an overview and an update, that would be great.
Sure. You probably have heard that there's a lot of controversy about voting by mail. The president has continuously questioned the validity of voting by mail. I can assure you that, I've been doing this for 13 years, representing I'm actually with the county attorney's office, not with the county clerk's office, but I do represent the county clerk's office, and I've been representing him in election matters for 13 years. And we've never had any problems with voting by mail. It's been a fairly mundane part of the election. About 9-10% of the people vote by mail ordinarily. We're expecting that to expand somewhat in this election, and there's been a lot of lawsuits over it. One of the things that the clerk's office decided to do this year was to send an application for ballot by mail to all registered voters. The way our system works is that if you want to vote by mail, you have to fill out an application form and then send it in and establish in that application that you're eligible to vote by mail. And I think Clerk Hollins went over these eligibility points a while ago, but you have to be 65 or over. You have to be disabled under the law, be out of the county during the election period, or be incarcerated but otherwise eligible to vote. A lot of the controversy has been over what exactly does it mean to be disabled. There was lawsuits filed, different rulings going back and forth. And what the Texas Supreme Court ultimately ruled was that it's up to the voter to determine whether or not they fit the definition of disabled under Texas law. That definition is that you either have a sickness or a physical condition which would lead to you needing assistance or may likely injure you by appearing to vote in person. So that's kind of a broad definition of what it is. And the initial contention was, if you're not immune to COVID, then you have a physical condition that you might injure yourself by going into a place where you could be exposed. The Supreme Court has said very clearly that that one factor all by itself is not enough to establish a disability, but it could be considered in analyzing your overall health. If you have other underlying conditions, such as heart disease, asthma, cancer, diabetes, you could determine that you fit that definition. And the determination, according to the court, is up to the individual voter. So it's up to you to decide whether or not your health situation is such that you might sustain an injury if you go to vote in person. Once that determination is made, you fill out an application form, you check that you qualify as a person who's disabled, and you send it in. The determination by the voter requires no further proof, no further evidence, no further explanation. Just the check mark in the box is enough. The clerk's office is without any legal power or ability even to question that determination. So if you've sent the ballot in and it shows you're eligible under that basis, then you will get a mail-in ballot. When you do an application for a mail-in ballot, basically what happens is you have to sign that application. When you get your ballot, you will review who you want to vote for, check all the boxes of who you want to vote for, send that ballot back, and that also requires that you sign it. The early voting ballot board, which is appointed to make determinations about eligibility of voters, will look at the two signatures side by side. And those signatures, if they match, will result in them recommending that you go ahead and count the vote. If they do not match, then it is possible that they'll determine that that is not a proper vote and reject it. The very few ballots by mail are rejected on this basis. You may have heard at some point that there's a lot of ballots by mail that get rejected. Those are typically rejected because they have some defect that the folks were not able to cure before election day. But most of the ballots are disallowed. They're disallowed because they don't get to the clerk's office on time. They have to get there by the close of business the day after election day. They have to be postmarked by election day. So if you send it too late, and even if it shows up at the clerk's office, it won't be counted. And in July, for example, about 2,000 ballots showed up too late. So the next question people have typically has to do with, well, how will I be sure that my ballot by mail will actually reach? An effort has been underway. It's actually being currently challenged in the courts, to tell you the truth. Clerk Hollins asked the governor to extend the period of time during which we do early voting. So instead of starting on the 19th of October, which the law ordinarily provides, the governor has determined, because of the emergency due to the pandemic, that early voting will start on the 13th of October. And he did one other thing. Texas law provides that you can deliver your ballot by mail one of three ways: that you can mail it, you can use what's known as a common carrier, which is a business that engages in delivering packages for pay, like FedEx or UPS, or you can deliver it in person. But the law, the way it's written, says you can only do that on election day. You have to deliver it to the clerk's office on election day, and you can present an identification and vote by mail that way. The governor, I think quite wisely, said that that procedure of delivering it in person can be extended to any period of time, not just on election day. So the ballots by mail have actually already started to be sent out to people who have sent their applications in. They have them in their possession. They could start bringing it to the clerk's office now. They don't have to wait till election day. And what is very important is that we have decided that the office of the clerk is not just one place. It could be any branch office of the clerk's office. So there are 11 branch offices of the clerk's office. And also, Energy Arena has been set up as the main operational center for the election, and central count will be conducted there. That also is a location where you can drop off your ballot by mail. So the procedure would be, if you want to drop off your ballot by mail, rather than mail it, and I'm afraid my screen is frozen, so I don't know if you guys can hear me or not.
We can still hear you just fine, Mr. Ray.
I'm going to wait until it unfreezes. Okay. I don't know if you can hear me talking there, but my screen was frozen. Anyways, so if you want to drop off in person, you can personally take your ballot to any one of these 11 locations. We'll be prepared for this. Or you can take it to Energy Arena, which is the arena that's right next to the Astrodome down at Energy Park, and you can drop it off in person. The two caveats there: first of all, you have to deliver in person. You can't give it to somebody else for them to deliver it. The second thing is, at the point of delivery, you have to show an identification. But it will be a quick process. You show up with your carrier envelope, your identification, say, here's my ID. They'll have you sign a list, and then you can deliver the envelope and leave. It's a lot shorter than standing in line, checking in, going to the ballot box, voting your choices there at the ballot box, and leaving after that. So you'll have that as an option. Drop off in person. at those 11 locations. Those 11 locations are on the harrisvotes.com website, and they're spread around town. They go from Baytown to Chimney Rock to the northwest side. There's like I said, 11 places plus Energy Arena where you can do that. So that's how the ballot by mail system works. If you want to vote by mail, you can obtain. Let me back up a second. I mentioned earlier that the clerk had decided to send out an application to all registered voters. Well, the Attorney General's office objected to that. They said that that would lead people who were not eligible to vote to commit fraud by sending in a ballot application when they weren't eligible to do so. We are disputing that. Next Wednesday, the Texas Supreme Court is supposed to hear our case to decide whether we are entitled to send an application, not a ballot, but just an application to all registered voters. They did not object to us sending the application to everybody who's 65 and over. So we've already sent those out. A lot of people 65 and over have gotten them. And to be quite frank, any organization or group can actually send out applications for ballot by mail to anybody they want to. You can also obtain one by going on the harrisvotes.com website under ballot by mail, voting by mail. There's a link to download and print the form for the application for ballot by mail. Or you can call the clerk's office and ask them to send you one. The only thing you have to do is you have to be able to deliver that back to them, and they have to receive it by October the 23rd. If it's received by October 23rd, they'll send you a ballot by mail. Don't wait that late if you're going to vote by mail, because they would have to mail you the ballot and you'd have to mail it back or bring it back within just that short period of time between October 23rd and November 3rd, or actually November 4th. So I know this guy sounds complicated. There, in fact, is the locations, the 11 locations I was just describing, and that doesn't actually include Energy Park. So there's 12 locations you can go to, and you can drop off your ballot by mail. Remember, you have to bring it yourself. You have to present identification at any one of those 12 locations. If you're near Energy Arena, I would go there. Because they're going to have it set up so you just have this dedicated drive-through lane. You can just drive through and drop it off. You don't even have to get out of your car. I'm still hoping that you all can hear me, because I can see that my screen is kind of frozen up again.
Mr. Ray, we can hear you and I can see you just fine. I have a question that one of my neighbors posed to me. She's over 65. And she said, she had ordered her ballot by mail, but what if she decides that she just wants to go to the polling place and vote in person? What does she do with that mail-in ballot that she received?
Okay, was that a question? I only heard the end of that.
What does someone do if they have requested a ballot by mail and received the ballot, but they decide that they want to go and vote in person at a polling place? What do they do with the ballot by mail, the mail ballot?
What you do in this situation, if you've gotten your ballot by mail, but instead of sending it in, you want to vote in person, take the ballot by mail that you've received with you to the polling place, hand it in to the election judge, and ask them to cancel that ballot by mail so that you can be issued a regular ballot to vote in person. If you've lost the ballot by mail, you don't know where it is, but you still want to vote in person, you can still go vote in person. However, they will show that you're on the poll book that you have received a ballot by mail. And the option they'll give you then, and insist on this, if this is the situation, is they'll say you can vote a provisional ballot. And what they'll do is they'll take the provisional ballot, they'll send it to the early voting ballot board. They will look to see if the ballot by mail you were issued has been sent in and counted. If not, then they will count the provisional ballot.
Thank you.
Okay, can we go to the next slide? And that's the contact information. Next slide, please. And so again, this is the early voting schedule and the locations. We have 112 early voting locations. and a little over 10 with drive-through. Again, just to note that on Thursday, October 29th, 7 of our locations will be open for 24 hours, and I do believe one of those is in the medical center. Next slide. This is a list of the 24-hour locations, and this presentation will be available to you. So as you can see, they're spread out through the county. We have NRG, and we also have McGovern, Texas Medical Center Commons. That may be close to you guys if for some reason you're working on site. Next slide. Okay, and this again is just a reminder that during during election day, we will actually have 800 polling locations. So, and a reminder that in Harris County, you can vote at any election center. You don't have to vote in your precinct. And if you visit harrisvotes.com, we do have a wait time feature, which you can punch in to say you're at the grocery store and you decide you want to vote. You can punch in that location and it will give you the 20 nearest polling centers around you. It will also let you know how much time, or I don't know that it does how much time, but how many people are in line ahead of you. But again, do vote early, because while we have tripled our election day locations as well, there could potentially be a wait. So the best thing to do is to vote early. Next slide.
Eco, if I could interject,
Yes, sir.
right here.
Absolutely.
You can go to harrisvotes.com and it'll show you a tab you can punch on called sample ballot. And what that'll do is it'll actually show you the ballot that's specific for you, with all the races that you will see when you go to the polling place. You can print that ballot off and you can mark who you want to vote for and take that written piece of paper with you to the polling place and use it. I think it's been mentioned here a couple of times, there will be no straight ticket voting. So we anticipate that this could potentially slow down the pace at which people get into the voting booth and out. If you have done this ahead of time and you already know who it is that you want to vote for, then this will aid you in getting in and out of there quickly. You cannot use an electronic device such as a phone to keep notes as to who you want to vote for. You can't use that in the polling place, but you can take whatever written material that you want to into the polling place with you.
Thank you for that. And this is, when you guys get the slide, if you'd like to watch the YouTube video, but this just shows you how drive-through voting works. There's been a lot of questions about how it works and the exhaust from being in the drive-through, and those issues are being addressed. And so drive-through voting, again, will be a safe option for you to cast your vote. Next. And again, here's a list of the 10 drive-through voting locations. These are not 24-hour, but just drive-through anytime. Drive-through, you don't have to be disabled. This is for anyone who does not feel safe going into the actual polling location. Our two biggest ones are NRG and Toyota Center. And again, once you arrive, the signs will indicate where you go for the drive-through voting. But again, this is something that's new to Harris County, and I believe we are only the second county in the United States to have implemented this. So this is something that we're really proud of, is to be able to allow folks to drive through and cast their votes. Next slide. And again, curbside voting. So curbside voting is just a reminder, but it has always been available. Curbside is reserved for those who are actually physically cannot walk into the polling location. If you'll see the buzzer, basically you pull up to the buzzer, you ring that button, an election worker will come out and they will bring the machine to you so that you can, again, vote from the safety of your car without having to get out of your vehicle. And again, curbside is for those who are disabled, whereas the 24-hour and the drive-through are for any citizen. Next slide.
And Tico, if I could add, that procedure I was describing where you drop off your mail-in ballot, there will be a buzzer like this at all of the annex locations, so that if you want it, if you feel like you can't get out of the car to go inside the office, you'll be able to ring this buzzer and somebody will come out to take your ballot.
Thank you. Next. Go ahead, next slide. And so, as you guys may be aware, Harris County is recruiting election workers for early voting and on election day. If you're interested in that, you can go to harrisvotes.com/election workers. When you go through the county, this is paid work, so maybe you want to make a little extra Christmas money. But the pay starts at $17 an hour. Responsibilities could be voting, machine setting up and breaking down, greeters, interpreters. We also have, we'll need a lot of tech support this year with the increase in voting machines, as well as the wait time features and some of the online activities that will be available to you to keep those current and running. Next slide. And as Clerk Hollins mentioned, all poll workers or election workers will have face shields, face masks, and gloves. If you vote in person, the spacing will be clearly indicated to ensure that everyone stays 6 feet apart. You will be given a finger cover and a sanitizing wipe so you can wipe the machine and keep your hands clean throughout. You will not come in contact with the election workers. There'll be a plexiglass. You will just show your ID through there. So again, voting in person is a safe way to vote, and we have plenty of supplies to offer. You will be offered a mask. Unfortunately, we cannot make people wear one, but hopefully everyone will be respectful of each other. There are temperature checks at the door. So again, I just want to ensure you that if your decision is to go to a polling location, you can expect that it will be safe. Next. Next. Okay, and so I will turn it back over to Sherry, and that is my contact information. If you have any further questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to our office. Please feel free to reach out to Ms. Pam or Douglas if you have any other questions or concerns. And thank you, and we'll stick around for additional questions.
Thank you. Lisa, do we have any questions in the chat before we move on to talking about other counties?
No, we don't currently. I would just like to remind everybody that at the beginning of the chat, we do have links to the voter registration presentation from before, and we have a link to the presentation that you're looking at right now, both available from the intranet. Thanks.
Thanks, Lisa. So I'm going to talk a little bit about voting in other counties. I just want to make one personal observation about voting by mail based on my own experience. I don't live in Harris County. I had a ballot rejected when I was going to be out of town for an election because the signatures didn't match, or they said the signature didn't match from my application and the ballot itself. When you are actually sending in your ballot, you have to sign over the seal of an envelope. So it's kind of an unnatural situation. So what I would recommend is when you apply for a mail-in ballot, take a picture of your signature so that you can make sure that it matches when you are having to sign over the seal in the envelope. So other counties, Tico mentioned that Harris County is one of the largest voting jurisdictions in the nation. So clearly our smaller counties around the area don't have the resources that Harris County does. For example, they spoke about how you can go to all of these branches if you want to turn in a mail-in ballot by hand yourself. In the smaller counties, that's not the case. You'll have to go to the county clerk's office or the election division office in your county seat and turn that in if you want to do that. The current status, as I understand it, is you can do that throughout the early voting period. There is a challenge that's been posed to that, but currently that is the situation. Also, Tico mentioned that you can vote in any polling place on election day in Harris County. You can also do that in Fort Bend County and several other counties, but not in all counties. That's something that's decided on a county by county basis. And of the 7 counties surrounding Harris, 3 of them, Brazos, Montgomery, and Waller, require you to vote at your precinct location only if you're voting on election day. Early voting, you can vote at any early voting location in those counties. But on election day, if you wait and vote on election day, you have to vote. You have to know what your precinct is and have to vote in your precinct. So the next slide here, if you know where your voter registration card is, and you don't have to present this to vote, you can show your driver's license. You don't have to have your voter registration card. But if you know where it is, you can look for the precinct number. This is a sample, and that'll show you where your precinct number is. And then you can go to your county website, your county election division website, and look for your precinct number. And that will not only show you, that'll not only help you find out the physical location where to vote on election day, but it'll also enable you to access your sample ballot. And if you don't know where your card is, there is a link here to the Secretary of State's office where you can go and find out what your voter precinct is, and also check your voter registration status. And the next slide is just briefly a screenshot of that. When you go to that link, this is what you'll see, and there's a little drop-down menu that will, you can pick which criteria you want to use to look yourself up to double check your voter status and figure out what precinct you're in. Now, I live in Fort Bend County, and I just noticed today that they have put the sample ballots up. I'm sure that, all the county websites look different, so yours will probably work and function different than this. But in mine, I go and I look up the presidential sample ballots, and then I click on my precinct, and I can pull up my ballot, which is double-sided legal. This is what my sample ballot for my precinct looks like. And, especially in the larger areas, you may have a friend that lives half a mile away, but they're in a different precinct. Maybe they're in a different county commissioner precinct, and they're going to have some of the elections, some of the choices on their ballot are going to be different than yours. So I've included here, and this will be in the PDF that we'll share on the intranet, links to the voter departments of the counties, the surrounding counties nearby. And I'll just remind you that we will have one additional voter education webinar coming up on the 6th. That's the one with the League of Women Voters that Dr. Wells and Sarah Klassen are presenting. So that is it for our presentation. Lisa, we can open it up for voice questions and slide questions, and I'll stop sharing so we can see everybody.
Yes, if anyone has a question, you can unmute yourself and ask it now, or you can put it in chat and I will relay it. Maybe we're just that good.
I hope so. Well, if you do have any questions, reach out to any of us that are VDRs on campus, myself, Lisa, Dr. Wells, Nikki. Victory Barra is a huge help with this. We'll be glad to answer your questions. Remember to register vote if you're not registered to vote by October 5th, and vote. And thank you all for joining us, and a special thanks to the clerk, Mr. Hollins. I don't live in Harris County, so
it's okay.
And Tico and everyone else from the clerk's office for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.